They are clear. There's no ambiguity in terms of what they're trying to do.
We are very transparent, and we actually, are very open to every stakeholder. It doesn't matter whether it's the opposition party or the ruling party or the security agencies. We are very transparent. And we are also very transparent with the donors. And we have had quite a number of audits, and we have had clean audits throughout. And that is what we are going to maintain. We maintain that to ensure that everyone, when they look at us, they see that we are there for Zimbabwe, not for sectarian interests.
Transparency. Again, because you also brought on board, I think, some of their funding partners. There was PACT, there was European Union. So there was that transparency in terms of who funds us. What do we do, the officials from the Swiss government? Who funds us? What do they fund us to do? Who do we work with? Where? What do we do? Where and with who? I think that was very clear in terms of transparency. There were always information packs sent well in advance in terms of meetings, reports and packages and so forth.
We have never engaged partners in any training or research before first and foremost meeting bilaterally with them to brief them about the program, its mandate, it's what it seeks to do. Why? Because just by saying we focus on SST without explaining it, I remember some stakeholders in many parts of the country say to us, look, the moment you wrote to us and said you want to meet with us, and we checked your logo, we checked the organization, we went into your website. Actually, we were very uncomfortable to meet with you. Because the idea of security for us is not what we are used to talking about. So we thought maybe you are part of the intelligence, part of the army, or part of, So there are challenges of perceptions.
I see a role of civil society as in sharing information. Mm-hmm. Sharing information in a two-way. Information from the community, from the citizens, in terms of what are the implications of the current status quo of the security sector. How is it making citizens vulnerable, and how is the current business of the day affecting people's enjoyment or asserting of the rights that we have enshrined in the new constitution. Then secondly, information sharing in terms of what is the status quo and structure of the security sector? Who is responsible for what issues or for what rights, and what are the opportunities of engagement? Then facilitating the dialogue so that people just have to get to a point where they talk to each other, not shout from a distance or ignore each other or function in suspicion. Because with suspicion, sometimes we can engage in a costly kind of gross human rights violations because we are just not talking to each other. We are just suspecting that this one is doing this and this one is doing this. So civic society, particularly ZPSP, because they have the expertise in that, is facilitating that dialogue for information sharing, for reviewing our progress to then say from where we are at, or from the baseline that is there, or the country that we say we want to be, where are we at when we talk about issues of security sector? What are the key indicators that we need to focus on? How progressive are we becoming? Who has the responsibility, and how do you play your part? Because everyone has a role to play and everyone has the piece of the puzzle. But to then say, depending on where you are positioned, are you going to share information? Are you going to have a monitoring system where at the end of the day you actually share knowledge to then say, this is the ideal, but this is the practice. How do we bring the ideal and practice all together?
If you then look at the programs, the deliberate tendency to let various stakeholders on the program themselves, it means you strengthen transparency. If the university lecturers who have come together on part of the program, if you have various civic society organizations who own the program, if you have the women's groups who own the program, that means you have sown seeds of transparency. The very fact that we have high-ranking people within our ranks, Brigadier Nkomo, for instance, is one of them, and the fact that the chairman of our board is a high-profiled ex-Zandla combatant, for instance, the fact that somebody like Nyasha Masiwa has direct access to the highest levels in the military, in the police, in the prisons, it means we are able to define ourselves in a non-partisan manner. We are able to respond to their questions about who funds you and why do they fund you. And the fact that we are actually bold to bring them aboard is itself an indication of our intention to do a program that has nothing to do with doing harm. It's a program that intends doing positive and progressive things in the country. I think to some degree we've succeeded in getting what could easily be a hostile entity to begin to look positively without us having to compromise, by the way, the values and the things that we believe in. There's been no compromise whatsoever. Anybody that's on board, any entity that's on board has had to do so at the strength of the argument that we have put on the table.
I don't know how you describe openness. It's like an open program. We have nothing to hide. It's not something like if we are right any minutes we must put them under something, because we do not intend to harm anybody. So it's got that openness, transparency.